Every dawn brings with it a quiet invitation, an offering of renewal. Yet for many, this invitation remains unseen. They rise from sleep, but bring the burdens of yesterday with them, carrying the same mental patterns, the same inner limitations. They pull their past into their present and wonder why life feels unchanged. If you wish to welcome a deeper sense of clarity, peace, and vibrant energy into your life, you must learn to release the identity that no longer serves your path. Not at some future time, but in this very breath. What has come before is history. It is not who you are now. The moment you cease to identify with the story of your past, you liberate yourself from its repetition. Many people are followed by their history like a shadow, unaware that the shadow only exists because they keep turning to look at it. Your past may offer context, but it does not define your essence. Allow that label to fall away. Make yourself open to this moment, for it is the fertile ground where all genuine growth occurs. To receive anything new, you must first create space, and that space appears only when you quiet the noise of what has been. The act of waking is more than the body stirring. It is a moment of profound energetic potential. But many simply rise and continue to sleepwalk through their day with their eyes open. Do not just wake up. You must learn to arrive. Arrive in the sensation of your own breathing. Arrive in the center of your awareness. Be completely present before the world draws you into its flow. Instead of reaching for a device, reach inward toward your stillness. Simply notice what is present within you, the thoughts, the feelings, the quiet resistance. This gentle pause each morning can dissolve layers of unconscious habit that might otherwise guide your day. The part of you that reacts without thinking is the part that obstructs the flow of life. In place of reaction, cultivate observation. Watch your thoughts as you might watch clouds drift across the sky. Let them travel on their way. When you react, you hand your inner state over to external conditions. When you respond from stillness, you become the calm steward of your own life. Your old patterns thrive on urgency and conflict. Your true nature watches and chooses from a place of wisdom. This space between you and your thoughts is not a form of escape. It is the beginning of true freedom. Silence is a powerful teacher that has been long forgotten. Many people fill the morning with constant sound, perhaps out of a fear of what they might find in the quiet. Yet the first moments of your day are sacred. They set the tone for all that follows. Try to sit with this silence, not with music or talks or even lists of goals. Simply be. In that emptiness, your mind finds its own natural order. The inner sediment begins to settle. When silence is your first conversation of the day, your actions that follow will carry more purpose, more strength, more alignment. True inner peace begins where your inner resistance fades. And silence is the very space that allows resistance to gently depart. One of the great barriers to a peaceful life is the perception that the world is inherently flawed. The world is not broken. Perhaps it is our lens of perception that has become clouded. What you experience on the outside is often a reflection of the state within. If you consistently encounter frustration, conflict, or lack, it is a signal to gently clean your inner view. Gratitude is the very practice that brings this clarity. Authentic gratitude is not a repetitive habit. It is a fundamental shift in perspective. It is not about mindlessly listing things you are thankful for. It is about a deep recognition that this existence, this single breath, this very moment is a profound gift. When your being resonates with gratitude, life tends to mirror that resonance by showing you more that is worthy of it. Discipline, often seen as a form of restriction, is in truth a deep and meaningful expression of self-respect. Your old conditioning seeks comfort, distraction, and fleeting moments of pleasure. But the self that is awakening honors growth, clarity, and inner structure. Each time you choose a moment of stillness over scrolling, a walk in nature over staying inert, or a conscious response over a reaction, you are not inflicting punishment. You are making an investment in your own evolution. Life does not respond to your wants alone. It responds to the very quality of your being. Discipline cultivates that being into someone who is ready to receive life's gifts without inner struggle. Each morning presents an opportunity to let go of who you were, not in a dramatic fashion, but in a quiet, spiritual sense. Let go of your stories, your well-worn excuses, your emotional burdens. Imagine rising from sleep with no memory of your perceived failures or limits. What person would you be in that moment? That potential self is already within you. You may not have met them yet because the sound of your own history has been too loud. Gently release the old self each day. Let every sunrise be a quiet ceremony of renewal. Life does not celebrate mere repetition. It celebrates presence and awakening. So, reflect on this not just once, but with the quiet intention of each new morning. Allow it to remind you that you are not the past. You are the infinite possibility of now, and it is in the now where true life is found. Waking is not a simple, mechanical act of opening your eyes and rising from your bed. It is not just the body's shift from slumber to motion. To awaken in the truest sense is to arrive, to be fully present in this very moment. Most people wake physically, yet they remain asleep mentally and emotionally as the day goes on. Their day begins with alarms, with duties, with distractions, but not with deep awareness. A genuine awakening means becoming conscious of the now, of the breath that flows through your body, of the quiet that is present before the day's activity begins. When you open your eyes each morning, ask yourself, am I truly here, or am I just continuing the noise of yesterday? The conditioned self reaches for the phone, for the updates, for the world's demands. But the awakened self, the mindful self, pauses. It first looks inward. What is the nature of my thoughts? What is the feeling in my heart? What am I holding from the day before that can be set down now? To observe yourself in this peaceful moment is not wasted time. It is a preparation for a day of greater clarity and strength. Most are unaware of how quickly they return to old emotional grooves as they start their day. They live out the same cycles, the same frustrations, and then ask why their lives feel stuck. But change does not arise from doing the same things with more force. It comes from seeing yourself with clarity and choosing not to act from a place of unconscious habit. When you learn to observe your own mind in the morning, even for just a few minutes, you start the process of releasing the patterns of your former self. You begin to interrupt the automatic behaviors that hold you in place. This arrival into the morning is a subtle yet profound ritual. It does not require incense or special ceremonies. It only asks for your presence. Sit for a moment in quiet. Feel your breath. Listen as the world outside awakens. Feel the potential of a new day meeting you like an empty canvas. This is the moment you choose not to paint the same picture you painted yesterday. This is where you select awareness over habit. This is where your energy connects with something deeper than routine. It connects with intention. By approaching your morning in this way, you train your mind to respond to life rather than merely react to it. You cease to be a servant to your own impulses. You become a witness, and from that witnessing, a creator. The conditioned self reacts impulsively, craves constant stimulation, and shies away from stillness. But the version of you that is truly awake does not fear the quiet. It finds its strength there, because in that stillness, insight, clarity, and peace naturally begin to flow. When your first act is awareness, the rest of your day starts to mirror that quality. To arrive in the morning also means releasing expectations. You do not need to forecast the day's journey. You do not need to manage every outcome. You only need to be rooted in the now. When you are fully here, your presence expands. You step into your day with a sense of peace, not pressure. You begin to see more, feel more, and welcome more. Not because you are striving for it, but because you are in harmony with it. Life's flow always finds the one who is not distracted from their own center. So, tomorrow morning, before anything else, remember this invitation. Don't just wake up, arrive. Don't just get out of bed, rise into your own awareness. That small, powerful shift will begin to gently dismantle the habits of the old self and create the space for the new one to be born. You are not on this earth to repeat your days. You are here to create your experience anew each and every morning. And the more you arrive in your day with awareness, the more the day arrives in you with its gifts. The mind can be like a great river, flowing endlessly, carrying thoughts, feelings, and memories in its current. Most people are simply swept along by it. They wake, and a single thought enters the stream, causing an instant reaction. They recall a past hurt, and their inner calm is disturbed. They foresee a difficult encounter, and a wave of anxiety rises. Without knowing it, they are no longer in the present moment. They are lost in mental projections. This is the way of the conditioned self, habitual, automatic, and unaware. To break this pattern, you must become the observer of the river, not just another object carried by its flow. Before your feet touch the ground each morning, take a quiet moment to simply watch your thoughts. Do not condemn them. Do not follow them downstream. Simply watch them. Observe. Like clouds passing through a great, open sky, they appear and they fade. You are not required to follow everyone. You are not required to believe everything your mind suggests. This distance between your true self and your thoughts is the birth of freedom. In this very gap, change begins. When you create that space, even for a breath, something profound happens. You stop reacting. You stop allowing the past or your worries to define your state of being. Many are caught in reactivity, doing what they have always done, saying what they have always said, and thinking what they have always thought. But the moment you observe without reacting, you interrupt that unconscious pattern. You become mindful. You become present. And in that presence, there is a deep and quiet strength. You shift from being moved by the current to being the one who navigates it. Reacting is the language of the conditioned self. It is a reflex born of past pain, of insecurity, of the ego's fear. Responding is entirely different. A response arises from clarity. It is unhurried. It is not defensive. It comes from a place of stillness. The one who reacts is predictable and easily unsettled. The one who responds is steady and centered. Others begin to sense this shift within you. You begin to feel it in yourself. There is no need for proof or explanation. You simply remain aware. And within that awareness, the right action reveals itself naturally. This practice of inner observation is not about ignoring your emotions or feigning calmness. It is about seeing an emotion in its fullness and choosing not to be swept away by it. You can feel a wave of anger without becoming the anger itself. You can notice a thought of fear without being fearful. This level of awareness rewrites the very foundation of the old self. It releases the patterns that do not serve you, not through force, but through light. When something is seen with clarity, it loses its unconscious power over you. The clarity itself is the healing. To live this way, you do not need to retreat from the world or meditate for hours on end. You simply need to build the gentle habit of observation. Every morning, before the world receives your energy, give it first to yourself. Sit for 1 minute, 5 minutes, or 10. Whatever time you have is enough. Close your eyes, breathe, and simply watch. Allow the mind to chatter. Allow feelings to come and go. Do nothing. Be nothing. Simply be the witness. With time, that witness becomes stronger than the noise. Eventually, observation becomes your natural way of being. You find you are no longer reacting to life as you once did. You pause before you speak. You feel into a situation before you decide. You notice your triggers instead of being controlled by them. This is not weakness. This is inner mastery. When you reach this point, you have already begun to let go of the old self, not through force or pretense, but by becoming deeply aware of who you are and choosing, moment by moment, to be fully here. In that presence, a life of meaning flows without effort. Many people start their day filled with noise. The instant their eyes open, they reach for their phones, listen to the news, or engage in conversation, unaware of how much internal disturbance they carry with them into their day. They mistake motion for progress, sound for productivity, and business for purpose. But true strength is cultivated in silence. Silence is not the mere absence of sound. It is the very presence of awareness. In that space before words are formed, before tasks are listed, lies a clarity that noise can never offer. The practice is not to run from sound. It is to learn not to fear meeting yourself without distraction. When you begin your day in silence, you offer yourself the most valuable gift in the modern world: stillness. In that stillness, something deep within you begins to find its balance. The thoughts that raced now begin to slow. The emotions that felt turbulent now become gentle. The sense of pressure that seemed constant begins to lose its grip. This all occurs not because you are trying to force it, but because you are simply allowing space for it to happen. Silence creates room for your own truth to emerge. It does not fill your mind, it clears it, and when you are clear, you naturally invite clarity into your life. There is an intelligence within silence that words cannot convey. In that quiet space, you start to hear what is truly happening within you. You might feel a sense of discomfort. You might feel a deep peace. But whatever comes, it is real and it is yours to observe. Many run from silence because it reveals what they have been trying to avoid. But if you can remain with it, the discomfort can transform into depth. You begin to understand that you are not your thoughts. You are not your worries. You are not your plans. You are the awareness that watches it all. And that awareness is powerful beyond measure. Before the world asks for your attention, give your attention to your inner world. Let silence be the first voice you hear. It can teach you more about yourself than any external guidance ever could. This is not to reject wisdom or inspiration from others. It is about preparing the soil of your mind to receive the seeds. Without silence, you are only adding more information to a cluttered space. But with silence, a single insight can shift your entire path. Your mind becomes like still water, able to reflect truth without any distortion. When you are silent, you are not being lazy or unproductive. You are returning to your natural state of being, the place where your energy comes into harmony with life itself. This is where a meaningful life begins. Not in great effort, but in quiet presence. The more still you become, the more you see what truly matters. You begin to notice which thoughts are worthy of your attention, which feelings need compassionate observation, and which inner callings deserve action. Silence does not remove the challenges of life, but it allows you to move through them without becoming part of the chaos. It may feel unfamiliar at first to sit in stillness while the world rushes on, but the most profound transformations always start in the unseen. Just a few moments of silence each morning can send ripples throughout your entire day. You start to speak with more care, act with more clarity, and live with more purpose. You cease chasing after peace and begin to radiate it. People notice a difference in your presence, not for what you say, but because of the calm you embody. When silence becomes your practice, the old, reactive self cannot survive. The version of you that was fed by noise, by impulse, by mental chatter begins to dissolve. In its place, something new rises, a self that is grounded, aware, and deeply connected to life. This new self does not look for approval or attention. It carries its own peace. It welcomes a life of purpose not through striving, but through alignment. So each morning, before you invite the world in, first invite in the silence. Let it speak to you in its quiet language. You will find that in saying nothing, it teaches you everything. Most people navigate their lives attempting to correct everything outside themselves. They hold the belief that if the world were different, if others would act properly, if their conditions were to become easier, only then could they find inner peace. This deep-seated illusion keeps them caught in a cycle of judgment and frustration. They find problems everywhere they look, seeing faults in others, injustice in circumstances, and unfairness in the unfolding of life. What they may not see is that they are not viewing the world as it is. The world is simply the world. They are viewing it through a conditioned lens, a filter formed by their own past, their unresolved feelings, and their unconscious habits. The lens through which you see is the world you will experience. Two people can be in the very same situation and have completely different inner experiences. It is not because the world is different for them, but because one's perception is shaped by fear. And if it is, they will find threats everywhere. If it is clouded by old resentment, they will find reasons for betrayal in every interaction. If it is scratched by wounds of the past, they will project that pain onto people who never caused it. This is how the conditioned self persists. It keeps your gaze turned outward, so you never have to question the inner distortion. It persuades you that your suffering is created by the world, rather than by your interpretation of the world. Attempting to change the world without first tending to your inner lens is like trying to clean a mirror by wiping the reflection itself. You can protest, you can complain, you can make demands, but if the lens remains untouched, the distorted image remains. This does not imply the world is without its challenges. It means your capacity to respond with wisdom is entirely dependent on the clarity of your perception. When your mind is filled with judgments, every challenge appears as a threat. When your mind is calm and clear, the very same challenges are seen as opportunities for growth. Clarity can transform chaos into a clear path forward. Your judgments are not deep insights. They are often just echoes of your own history. Every time you declare, "People are always this way," or "Things never work out for me," you are not speaking from a place of clear awareness. You are speaking from an old wound. These generalizations do not reflect the reality of the world. They reflect the unresolved parts of your own being. The moment you begin to gently question these deep-seated beliefs, the lens itself begins to shift. You start to see others not as adversaries, but as mirrors reflecting parts of yourself. Situations no longer feel like personal attacks. They become part of a larger flow of life that you are now learning to navigate with more grace. You do not simply attract what you desire. You experience the world according to who you are. If your inner world is full of resistance, your outer world will feel full of obstacles. If your heart is closed off, the gifts of life cannot easily enter. When you adjust your lens even a little, the entire world appears to change. You begin to see beauty where you once saw only the mundane. You begin to feel a sense of calm in situations that once caused you deep anxiety. It is not the world that has been transformed. It is your way of seeing it that has been renewed. Tending to this lens is not a one-time event. It is a daily practice. Each morning, you have the opportunity to clean it through awareness, through gratitude, through stillness, and through reflection. You must ask yourself, am I seeing with clarity, or am I projecting my own inner state? You must have the honesty to recognize your own distortions and the courage to release them. This path is not always easy. It demands great humility. It requires you to let go of the part of yourself that finds identity in being a victim. But in that very act of letting go, you reclaim your true strength, the power to see life as it is, not as your wounds color it to be. When you stop trying to fix the world and focus instead on clarifying your lens, a new self naturally emerges. This self is no longer reactive, no longer bitter, and no longer caught in endless conflict. It is calm, present, and open. It does not need the world to be different to find peace. It brings its own peace into the world through how it sees and responds. This is how a life of meaning finds you, not when everything on the outside aligns perfectly, but when your perception becomes clear enough to see the quiet beauty that was always there. Gratitude is often treated as a simple gesture of saying thank you, a polite custom performed out of social convention. But authentic gratitude goes much deeper than words. It is not merely a reaction to a positive event. It is the conscious recognition that life, in its profound and intricate nature, does not owe you anything at all. And yet, it provides you with everything necessary to grow, to learn, and to awaken. This deep understanding transforms gratitude from a mere ritual into a profound insight. When you begin to feel genuine thanks, not because everything is perfect, but simply because you are present and breathing, your whole way of seeing the world shifts. Gratitude gently interrupts this pattern. It halts the cycle of not enough and brings your awareness back to the fullness of the now. It reminds you that the very breath you are taking is not guaranteed, that the food that nourishes you, the people you meet, The lessons you learn, all of it is part of a generous unfolding that you did not create, yet are given the privilege to experience. When you start your day with gratitude, you are doing more than being positive. You are resetting your entire inner state. You are stepping out of a vibration of lack and into a state of graceful receiving. This is not about pretending that challenges do not exist. It is about choosing to see what is already working, what is already present, and what is already a gift. From this energy of appreciation, you stop striving and begin aligning. Opportunities that were once hidden start to become visible, not because the world has changed, but because your lens for seeing it has. Gratitude has a way of humbling the ego. It dissolves feelings of entitlement. It removes the illusion that life should give you something just because you are working hard or trying your best. It reveals that the sun rises without your command, that your heart beats without your permission, and that countless small miracles are occurring within and around you at every single moment. When you see life through this lens, your inner struggle begins to lessen. You still take action, but not from a place of desperation. You move from a place of inspiration. You act from a foundation of fullness, not of lack. There is also a quiet, healing power in gratitude. It enables you to forgive, to release, and to accept. When you can feel gratitude for your lessons, even the painful ones, you stop identifying as a victim. You realize that life has been shaping you, not punishing you. Gratitude helps to transform old scars into symbols of your strength. It does not erase the memory of pain, but it can give that memory meaning. And it is meaning that the heart truly seeks. When you find meaning in your past, you cease to fear your future. You can walk with a sense of peace, knowing that no part of your journey has been wasted. The practice of gratitude requires no special conditions. You do not need more money, more success, or more validation from others. You simply need awareness. Every morning, before your mind begins to list all that is missing, gently train it to notice all that is present. The more you cultivate this practice, the more your inner world will change. Life will begin to feel lighter, more open, more welcoming. You become magnetic, not by demanding that life give you more, but by being fully open to receive what is already flowing your way. The conditioned self is sustained by complaint and dissatisfaction. It looks for something to be wrong in order to feel alive. But when you choose gratitude, that old self begins to dissolve. In its place, a new self arises, one that radiates calm, welcomes life's gifts, and trusts the unfolding of existence. This is not magic, it is a state of alignment, and alignment is born from presence. Gratitude anchors you firmly in the now, releases your sense of lack, and prepares your heart to receive without resistance. In that state, you no longer feel the need to chase after anything. You become the space where a meaningful life can naturally flow. There are aspects of our lives we do our best to avoid. Certain feelings, memories, patterns, or people that stir a sense of discomfort within us. We push them aside, we bury them under a mountain of distractions, and we assure ourselves that we have moved past them. But whatever we resist does not simply vanish. It withdraws into the shadows and waits. The more we try to run from it, the more silent power it accumulates over us. Resistance often leads to repetition. You may find yourself drawn into the same kind of relationship, the same kind of argument, or the same inner conflict time and time again, without a full understanding of why. This is not a punishment. It is an invitation to bring awareness to what is hidden. Avoiding what is uncomfortable is a natural tendency of the mind. The mind seeks ease, security, and the familiar. But growth does not arise from a place of comfort. It comes from finally meeting what you have been unwilling to face. That very feeling you avoid, that very pattern you deny, is the precise doorway to your own transformation. Life may continue to bring it to your attention, not to cause you pain, but to awaken you. You cannot release what you have not yet acknowledged. You cannot heal what you have not yet allowed yourself to feel. The old, conditioned self survives by means of avoidance. The new, awakened self is born through courageous acceptance. When you finally turn, and gently look at what you have been running from, you begin to take back your own power. You realize that the feeling itself is not as overwhelming as the fear of feeling it. Most of our suffering is born from resistance, not from the raw experience itself. By observing the pattern, understanding its origins, and feeling the associated emotions without judging them, you begin to break the cycle. You start to see it not as something that defines your identity, but as something that has been your teacher. This is a subtle shift, but it marks the beginning of true freedom. Healing is not about constructing a new self. It is about removing all that is not you. The emotional weight you carry is often not of your own making. It can be inherited from your past, from your upbringing, from your life experiences. It is not your fault that you carry it, but it is your responsibility to gently set it down. And that process begins with facing it. Sit with your discomfort. Allow it to speak. Let it reveal to you where you have been holding on to tension, to blame, to fear, or to grief. This is not an act of weakness. It is an act of deep courage. True courage is not pretending to be fine. It is the willingness to feel what is real. Resistance is often coupled with judgment. We label our feelings as bad, wrong, or shameful. We suppress our sadness, our anger, our confusion, because we have been taught that we should not feel these things. But feelings are neither right nor wrong. They are simply messengers. They arise to show us something that needs our compassionate attention. When you listen to them without resistance, their intensity often softens. When you allow yourself to feel without judgment, a healing process begins. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. What once defined you now becomes a lesson learned. Facing what you resist is not a single event. It is an ongoing practice. Each time a difficult feeling arises, you meet it with a little more presence, a little more understanding. You observe it like an old visitor, no longer with fear, no longer with a need to fight. In that calm state of witnessing, its charge begins to fade. You learn to respond differently. You stop acting from the old wound and start acting from a place of wisdom. This does not mean you will never again feel pain, but it means that pain no longer has control over you. The pattern loses its hold, and your life begins to open up in new and unexpected ways. As long as you resist something, it will follow you. It will repeat itself through people, through places, through feelings and events. But the very moment you face it with full, compassionate awareness, it begins to dissolve. This is how you find true freedom from the past, not by trying to forget, but by integrating its lessons. You do not erase the old self. You come to understand it so deeply that it no longer defines you. And in that deep understanding, you release it. This is how transformation unfolds. This is how the old programming comes to an end and a new way of living can begin. Through presence, through acceptance, and through the quiet courage to face what you once feared. Your environment is not something separate from you. It is, in many ways, a mirror of you. The space where you live, the people you share your time with, the daily habits you perform. All of these reflect your inner condition. When your surroundings are disorganized, chaotic, or energetically draining, it is often a sign that your inner world is also unsettled. We often overlook this simple truth, blaming external circumstances for how we feel. But if you observe closely, you will see that the chaos on the outside is often a quiet echo of the disorder on the inside. This is not a matter for guilt or self-criticism. It is a matter of awareness, of seeing that what is around you is frequently a silent expression of your mind and your energy. Many people say they want peace, yet they live surrounded by noise. They seek clarity, but their personal space is cluttered. They desire to grow, but they surround themselves with people and routines that keep them anchored in the past. What you permit to be around you says a great deal about how you value yourself. If you live in a state of disorder, it becomes more difficult to think with clarity, to make wise decisions, or to feel inspired. The environment itself can become heavy, and that weight can influence every part of your life. You might not notice it day by day, but over time, it creates the very atmosphere in which you think, feel, and exist. To change your environment is more than just tidying your room or organizing your workspace. It is a sacred practice, a way of communicating to yourself and to life that you are ready for a new chapter. When you bring order to your space, you are telling yourself that you are worthy of clarity and ease. When you let go of possessions that no longer serve you, you are practicing the essential art of release. And when you intentionally choose who and what you allow into your daily life, you are stepping into a place of quiet strength. This is not a superficial act. It is a spiritual one. It is a practice of energetic alignment. Every object in your possession carries an energy. Every corner of your home holds a memory. Ask yourself, what kind of energy am I surrounded by each day? Are my walls filled with things that inspire me, or with reminders of a self I am trying to move beyond? Are the people I am with uplifting, or do they drain my vitality? Are my habits aligned with who I am becoming, or with who I am trying to forget? These are not questions meant to create more pressure. They are meant to invite a gentle honesty, because when your environment is cultivated with intention, it begins to support the very self that you are striving to be. A sense of abundance does not easily enter a space dominated by chaos, not because it is unwelcome, but because there is no room for it to be received. A clear mind is a magnet for clear opportunities. A calm space is a home for creative thought. A supportive community of friends energizes your aspirations instead of diminishing them. Your environment will either expand you or contract you. It will either fuel your growth or keep you repeating cycles that feel familiar but are ultimately empty. If you wish for new outcomes in your life, begin with your immediate world. Tend to it with care. Make it a reflection of the inner energy you wish to cultivate. There is no need for a massive overhaul all at once. Start simply. Remove one item that no longer brings you a sense of lightness. Spend a few minutes each day creating order. Set loving boundaries with people who deplete your energy. Begin to notice how your own body feels in different spaces and in the presence of different people. These small acts create a powerful momentum. As you cultivate more clarity on the outside, it begins to be mirrored on the inside. You begin to feel lighter, more centered, more aligned. The internal noise starts to quiet down. The distractions lose their power, and in their place, a new space opens up for ideas, for opportunities, for a deep sense of peace. When your environment is a true support for your highest self, you no longer need to force a life of meaning. It arrives naturally. It feels at home because you have made a space for it. You have created a home not just with furniture and walls, but with energy and intention. And that is when life begins to reflect your inner state with profound accuracy. You do not chase abundance. It begins to find you because you are no longer sending mixed signals. You are clear, aligned, and ready. And life always responds to clarity. Always. Discipline is often viewed as something severe, an act that restricts you or strips the joy from life. But in truth, discipline is not a form of punishment. It is a form of alignment. It is the developed ability to say yes to what holds deep meaning and no to what offers only fleeting comfort. When you begin to live with discipline, you are not turning away from yourself. You are turning towards the person you are in the process of becoming. You are choosing growth over momentary ease, clarity over internal chaos, and purpose over pleasures that fade too quickly to truly matter. Many people shy away from discipline because they see it as rigid, demanding, or a source of suffering. But genuine discipline is not born from self-criticism. It is born from self-respect. It is a profound declaration that you are worthy of the effort, that your deepest aspirations are worth protecting, and that your time on this earth is sacred. It is not something you apply only now and then. It becomes a way of living, a way of honoring yourself in the thousands of small decisions you make each day. From the food that nourishes your body to the words you speak to the habits you repeat, every choice is either building your future or holding it at a distance. The conditioned self is drawn to what is easy, to distraction, to immediate comfort. It desires to feel good right now, even at the cost of later peace. It will try to persuade you to skip the meditation, to avoid the difficult but necessary conversation, to delay the meaningful project. And every time you follow that voice, you give strength to the part of you that remains stagnant. But the moment you choose discipline, even in one small area of your life, you begin to shift your entire identity. You cease to be one who merely waits, and you begin to become one who creates. This shift may be subtle at first, but over time, it changes everything. Discipline is not a pursuit of perfection. It is a commitment to consistency. You will still have moments of weakness. You will still face struggles. But you will learn to return to your path more quickly because your foundation has been changed. You no longer depend on motivation, which comes and goes like the weather. You learn to rely on your commitment, which is as steady as the ground beneath your feet. And this quiet, steady commitment sends a message, not just to yourself, but to life, that you are sincere, that you are no longer available for your old excuses, that you have made a decision to move forward, no matter how small the steps may be. Each time you rise early, when it feels easier to remain in bed, each time you choose your deeper purpose over a momentary distraction, you are demonstrating something powerful. You are demonstrating that you can be trusted with more responsibility, more energy, more of life's gifts. Because life does not simply reward desire, it meets our readiness. And discipline is the way you demonstrate that you are ready. It is the bridge that connects your intention to its manifestation in the world. Without it, dreams remain as mere ideas. With it, those dreams become your reality. There will be days when discipline feels solitary, when it appears that everyone else is relaxing, celebrating, or escaping, while you are doing the inner work. In those moments, quietly remind yourself why you started. Remember that you are not walking this path to gain the approval of others. You are walking it to meet the version of yourself that only discipline can reveal. That self is already within you. It is simply waiting for you to become consistent enough to allow it to emerge. To choose discipline is to choose yourself, not just the self you are today, but the self you are aspiring to become. It is an act of deep self-love, perhaps the highest form, because it requires patience, foresight, and a quiet inner strength. You are not just living for today's comfort. With every intentional act, you are building your future. And in that future, you will look back with gratitude, not with regret. Because you will know that you showed up for yourself, even when it was difficult. And that kind of profound love for yourself creates a life that welcomes abundance without ever having to chase it. Transformation is not an event that arrives with a loud sound or a dramatic display. It does not always demand that the world stands still or that everything you know must first fall to pieces. True transformation begins in the quietest of moments, in the small choices you make with no one watching, in the simple willingness to release the version of yourself that no longer serves your path forward. Every single morning, you are given this profound opportunity, not as a symbol, but as a real and tangible choice. When your eyes open, you can decide to let yesterday fade, not just the external events, but the inner mindset, the familiar excuses, the quiet limitations that have shaped your past actions. Most people carry the same identity with them from one day to the next. They will say, "This is just who I am. This is how I've always been. This is what I'm capable of." But this identity is not a permanent fixture. It is a deeply ingrained pattern, a memory, a series of choices that are being repeated without conscious thought. That identity is not fixed. It is a deeply ingrained pattern, a memory, a series of choices that are being repeated without conscious thought. When you awaken and say to yourself, "Today, I am not bound by that version of me," you begin to break the cycle. You give yourself permission to be new. And that quiet permission is incredibly powerful. Because life does not respond to your unseen potential. It responds to the energy you embody in this very moment. To be daily does not mean you lose your essence. It means you gently shed the layers of falsehood, of fear, and of old conditioning. It means you look at your comfortable excuses and say, I am finished using these as a reason to stay where I am. It means you see your old fears and say, I will no longer give you my power. This is not an act of denial. It is an act of profound choice. You are not denying your past happened. You are simply choosing not to carry it with you into this new day. This inner release is not a distraction. It is a liberation. It clears the inner ground so that something new and more authentic has the space to grow. Many people wait for their transformation to be started by pain, by a crisis, or by heartbreak. But what if you did not have to wait? What if you made the choice to evolve before life required you to? That is a form of inner mastery. That is when you truly start to move in harmony with the flow of existence. Every morning, you can close the previous chapter, not because it was flawed, but because you are ready to start writing a fresh one. You do not need an external reason. You only need the quiet courage to stop clinging so tightly to who you were yesterday. In doing this, you make yourself available to life in its purest form, unfiltered by past grievances, undiluted by old fears, and fully present. Rebirth is not some far-off spiritual concept. It is happening in this moment. Every time you choose not to let an old thought control you, every time you choose truth over a familiar story, action over hesitation, or presence over an unconscious habit. Rebirth happens when you remember that you are not your past. You are not your name, your history, or your struggles. You are the silent awareness behind all of those things. And from that space of pure awareness, anything becomes possible. The most beautiful aspect of this practice is that it does not ask for perfection. It only asks for your gentle intention. This process of letting go and being reborn is not always comfortable. Releasing what is familiar never is, but it is necessary. Because the longer you hold on to the old self, the heavier your life can begin to feel. The dreams that once inspired you start to feel out of reach. The joy that you once found in simple moments begins to fade. Not because life has stopped offering its gifts, but because you have stopped being open to receiving them. When you allow the old self to be released, you do not lose anything of value. You create space. You invite new thoughts, new opportunities, and new levels of clarity into your being. The world outside of you will reflect what is occurring inside of you. When you shift your inner state, the world shifts with you. Life is in a constant dialogue with who you are being. Not who you were, not who you hope to be one day, but who you are right now, in this breath. When you rise each day with the understanding that everything old can be released, you begin to radiate a different energy. You speak with more truth, you act with more courage, and you welcome life's gifts with more ease. You are no longer trying to become something. You are simply being, and that energy cannot be ignored. That is when a life of abundance finds you. Not because you have forced it, but because you have aligned with it, through the simple, courageous act of releasing your limits and rising into your truth. You are not here to repeat your life. You are here to recreate it. The old self was built upon survival. The new self is built upon awareness. A meaningful life does not come from chasing. It comes from alignment. Every morning is an invitation to release who you were and embody who you are becoming. So do not just watch this once. Reflect upon it each morning, not with your eyes, but with your whole being. And when you begin to live from that place, life will have no choice but to open all its doors to you.